Welcome everyone, I'm Jeff from the Overwatch team, and this is Overwatch This.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 34 of Overwatch This. I'm Matt, I'm joined by Ben.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. And we've got a bit of news because we've had some stuff about what could potentially be a new map turn up recently, haven't we, Ben?
Yeah, so this is all there's kind of this lunar base thing going on, the Horizon lunar base. Basically, they put up a little in-universe story on the website that was all about, this lunar base that's been there. It was where Winston was
we already know about it.
He was genetically modified. Yeah, they'd introduced it into the story. I mean, it must have been as far back as like that first cinematic with him and Winston, the scientist. Yeah. But yeah, it's a little more about that. It's the fact that they're still in contact with it, that it's still actually running, that some of the scientists might still be alive on it. Nice little bit of lore. But what it actually suggests about, in-game things is that this will probably be a new map. This is hinted at by a number of different things. First of all, we get a little map of the lunar base itself.
Yeah, they put a blueprint out, didn't
they?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and that was actually already it was actually already in the game. I found out this morning. It's on one of the Chinese control maps.
Oh, okay.
The control tower part of
Lijiang Tower.
There we go. Got there. It's on that map as well. And if you look at the blueprint, it's like, okay, well, I can see how this would work as an Overwatch map.
Yeah. It seems to have like an A and a B and potentially.
Yeah, it's even got the letters on it, which is kind of, I think, quite a good giveaway. And if you look at where they are, you're like, oh, okay, so you would fight over this bit, and then maybe it would be a control map, and you'd fight over different bits of it in different maps, or it would be like a 2CP map, or maybe it'll be a bit of both. Maybe they'll use the same tile set to create a number of different maps, just because it's quite an important thing. It also, with it being, where Winston was genetically modified and all of this lore stuff went on, and it's stuff to do with, before the kind of start of the game, there'd be a lot of lore that they could put into the map there, and that's something that they like to do. And then finally, there was some data mining it must have been a few weeks ago now, that suggested that we were going to get a map based in space. There was various voice lines were data mined that mentioned kind of being on the moon and that sort of thing. And there was also kind of a quite spacey version of the main theme, and also some effect sounds that were very, outer space and airlocks and that sort of thing.
Sure. So that's kind of a map, and that's what we've had sort of like.
That is almost inevitable, I think, that that's happening.
Yeah, and do you think that's potentially going to come as part of Anniversary, or should we expect to wait
I would guess that this will be added to the PTR next week or the week after, to go live after Anniversary finishes, like a week after Anniversary finishes, which I think is June, like the second week of June. So this would go live like the third week of June.
Okay.
Or maybe the fourth week. Kind of depends how they want to interact with E3 as well. Blizzard aren't at E3. They've actually announced as much that the Overwatch team isn't there in any official capacity. No doubt, being in the same, state, not so much the same city, given how large Los Angeles is. But there'll be people there, but they're not there to announce anything. They're not going to show up at the Sony conference to announce some new stuff or anything like that. But what is interesting is that in the Anniversary stream, Kaplan said that there was new hero information on the horizon.
Yeah, I was going to say this is a map. It's not Doomfist basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's interesting because there are a lot of new characters introduced in that. The little bit of story that they gave.
Yeah, there's Hammond, who
seems to be kind of the main one, and he seems to be something that was being experimented on as well. It's possible that maybe he wasn't a gorilla, maybe he's another animal or something. If you were going to pick someone out of all of that first story that had been introduced, and one of them was going to be a character, you'd say it would be Hammond, just because he takes the largest role in that particular story. In the same way that Effie did in the pre-Arisa kind of wind up there.
Which turned out to be a massive red herring. And
exactly.
Turned out to be a galloping robot and not an 11-year-old child.
And in a similar way to people were like, well, you're probably not going to get to play, shoot an 11-year-old child in the face. I think it would be unlikely that Hammond, assuming he's a gorilla, would be added to the game because they really like having this unique cast of characters, not only in that they are all very unique in terms of how they are characters, but they're very unique from each other as well. And the cast itself is very diverse. And just adding another gorilla in the same way that if they just added like another kind of generic soldier type guy, that would very much, clash with Soldier 76.
So if we're talking about, let's get this straight. There's a lunar base, which have been testing on gorillas,
possibly just animals, but
possibly just animals, right?
Yes.
So if they're doing animals, Is this where they fused a jetpack onto a cat?
Well, I would be surprised if there is not some reference to that. But like the reason that became such a big deal was because I think it was GameSpot, right?
Yeah.
They asked about it, or they asked about like weird heroes that they'd cancelled, and Jeff mentioned it. But it was at that point it was cancelled. You know, it wasn't something they did. They decided it was too silly or whatever. It didn't work. So I would be very surprised if that now came back as like a fully formed thing. But I would be. Again, I would expect them to do something with that just because it's interesting and people are fascinated by it and people think it's funny as well. Interestingly, all of this doesn't tie to Doomfist at all.
Not a chance.
Just before we came in, I read a highly upvoted Reddit thread that did try to tie it all together, and there was stuff to do with mind control and Hammond being a mind controlling gorilla in the style of Gorilla Grodd.
Oh,
and if you want to go read that thread, it's on the subreddit. It's still just about on the front page.
Was the final
think
conclusion
that
that like Doomfist is behind the Planet of the Apes?
Well, the final conclusion was that new Doomfist is actually a good guy, and he's going to go with Winston to the moon to beat up Hammond because Hammond created the original Doomfist gauntlet and then controlled the guy using it with his mind control. So, I mean, you know, obviously. So maybe all of that is true. However, on the surface of it, none of this links into Doomfist, which could either mean that A, this isn't actually going to turn into a new character, maybe we'll see that, you know, a little further down the line again, or it's going to be someone that we weren't expecting, which will also quite nicely disprove all of the 4chan leaks, which means we'll get back into, you know, being surprised by things happening.
Exceptional. And now the other thing that's been going on this week is there is a little bit of loot box drama.
Yes, I mean, there's always a little bit of loot box drama. So the anniversary event is going on. I think it's generally accepted that a lot of the stuff in it is very, very good, particularly the dances. The dances are something that people want added to the normal loot boxes, along with, you know, people like the skins, people like the lot of different stuff that's in there. And it's kind of brought to a head a lot of the kind of slightly quieter complaints that have kind of been rumbling along in the background ever since the game was originally launched. An easy example of this is, so the way Blizzard's community management works is if there's a really hot button issue, they like to direct all of the discussion for it into one thread.
Sure.
Not here to criticize that. Whether that works or not, you can discuss at length. It's something they've been doing for a while, and they're much smarter community managers than I am, so I expect they know what they're doing. But it does mean that every time someone puts up a new thread about it, somebody, you know, a blue poster needs to go in and say, sorry, can we just redirect this to this thread and lock the thread? It means that any blue tracker, I have one called overstalk.io, which, you know, just shows you all the blue posts that are being made on Reddit and on the official forums. They're all completely useless at the moment because about once every 3 hours, there is 24 posts of one of the blue community moderators going on and being like, and redirecting like dozens of threads that are all talking about loot boxes and, you know, are the odds fair and should we be doing this and is this okay in like in a game like this, in a full price game? Is it okay, you know, the rate at which you get credits from duplicate anniversary items and that sort of thing? And I mean, I know your loot box luck is minimal.
Yeah,
at the best of time. It is something that you complain about. It's something that you don't like and that does, I don't know, drive you away from the game.
It doesn't. Oh no, certainly it doesn't drive me away. You know that because I practically play every day. But yeah, it does. So for example, at the moment, I'm feeling a little bit frustrated that I've not had any luck so far in Anniversary. I've not had any legendary skins. You know, the ones that I want. But I am getting an awful lot of duplicates. And I've already had duplicates of Junkrat's Dance, for example, and get quite a minimal amount of kind of cash back for that. And I'd like maybe a bit more. You know, that's my complaint.
Yeah. I think one of the main complaints and one that's hardest to deflect, and we'll go into this in kind of deeper in a bit, is that you should, because they cost 3 times as much, duplicates should give you more credits. Whether that should be 3 times as many credits or maybe 1.5 times as many credits or something.
But more would be nice.
But more just because there's such a feel bad when you do get those event duplicates. So the main thing here that we're going to talk about now is like, are loot boxes a problem? So let's start with the good. It's exciting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Like you click open, you see 2 golden ones go up and you're like, you know, that's brilliant. And if it is stuff that you wanted, or even if it's stuff that, as long as it isn't duplicates, basically, you do feel good about that. You know, maybe it's a skin for a character you don't play that much, and that leads you into playing that character more. That happened with me at the start of when they added this whole system in. Obviously, I've been playing a lot in the beta, but I never really got into Reinhardt. My first legendary on live was Bloodheart, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll play him a little bit. Found out I actually quite enjoyed it, a character that I kind of ignored because I didn't. The way he was played, particularly back at the start of the game, was pretty much held right click and hope that your team won, right? So yeah, you know, it helps with that kind of thing. the system itself has also led to some incredible cosmetics. I don't think anyone's going to doubt the pedigree of the art that's added. The dance animation's brilliant. We spent a whole episode, was it last week? Yeah, talking about, our favorite dances and our favorite new skins. Stuff like Officer Diva and, just use another Diva example, the Cruiser Diva.
Yeah.
This stuff, not only is it, really great to look at, but it takes over a certain amount of like the internet zeitgeist whenever it happens. And that's really valuable, not only for Blizzard as a company that needs to make money, and we'll get onto that in a second as well, but as, fans of the game getting to share and see all of this fan art come out. That's important and good. And little Easter eggs like Junkrat and Roadhog's dances like syncing up and them doing a high five. That's really, really cool. It also makes a shed load of money.
I'm sure it does, yeah.
And that is good for you as a player of the game. The fact it makes money is a good thing because it means that the game can continue to develop.
Yeah, and we get new anniversary skins. And
exactly. Yeah,
it means
you keep getting all these events. It keeps heroes, maps, modes, all of that free. And that's very, very important. And something that was a worry when the game was initially announced, and it's really hard to think about this now, but back in 2014, when asked about the business model, they didn't know. In fact, in 2015, they still didn't really know.
Imagine if they shipped it with a season pass.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
or been the death of the game.
Or if it was free to play and you had to earn heroes and you couldn't just play whoever you liked, it would be a completely different game. It would totally alter the balance and all the rest of it. So that is important, and those are the good things about it.
Oh, so yeah, we know that there's lots of things that are good about loot boxes, but obviously there's something bad about them because otherwise we wouldn't have the complaints.
Yeah, which is what's causing all that. And I think going through the good is important because I think a lot of people maybe they don't realise quite what the alternatives are.
Sure.
Because companies need to make money. It is design. That's just how the world works.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a game these days either. And there was a fairly interesting article on Kotaku wrote about this yesterday, where they were talking about the idea of games of service, and that's just the way the world is now. You're not just going to buy a game for 35 quid and take it home, and that'll be that. But yeah, so on the side of the bad, I think the feel bads is the main problem, and maybe the one that's also the easiest to fix. And this is, you open your anniversary loot box, and it's 4 voice lines, or it's a player icon that you already have, and 3 voice lines or something, right? And when that happens, particularly if you spent money on those, which is something that Blizzard want you to do, there is assumed that every time they release these loot boxes, a certain number of people will buy a certain number of loot boxes with money. Not they won't use their in-game credits to buy the items they want. It is assumed that will happen. Presumably, the reason that there's 50 of them for about the price of a game is because they're expecting a few people. And when I say a few people, I mean millions. To do that. And that funds the rest of the game and funds other projects at Blizzard and funds Activision Blizzard as a horrendous conglomerate of multi-million-dollar enterprises. So when you have done that and you open these boxes and they aren't giving you stuff that you even want, or it's a lot of duplicates, particularly if you get like the 4 dupe box, which I actually don't know if that's possible. I think they might have coded it so that was impossible, because I don't think I've ever seen a 4 dupe box. I've seen 4 legendary boxes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not that I've opened personally, but on Reddit and that sort of thing. So yeah, you get those feel bads, and then you're like, why am I playing this? Why am I doing this? Why don't I go play like a game? Well, finding a game that you're playing regularly that doesn't have a system like this is pretty difficult these days. But why don't I go play World of Warcraft, or why don't I go play something on my console, or play a new game, or play Counter-Strike Global Offensive, where a lot of this is certainly lesser because. Well, yeah, let's not talk about their system. It's a whole other thing. It also means that there's a really insane cost to collect everything. And this is an interesting in 2 ways. One, that is true. Like, if you want to have every item in the anniversary thing, I mean, we wrote an article about this last week. It's some number of hours, or some 100 number of loot boxes, which translates into that number of dollars.
Absurd amount of dollars. And
pounds,
exactly.
Yeah, like I mean, in the high hundreds per event if you want to get everything. The thing about that is you're not meant to get everything.
Sure.
Blizzard don't want you to get everything. You're not meant to want everything, which, I mean, like, how many characters do you actually want anniversary skins for?
5, let's say.
5?
Yeah.
Yeah. If I wanted everything, that would be very strange. I'd probably only really want, like, Cruiser Diva. Like,
sure.
I'll be happy if I get that. But people don't think about it that way. They just go, well, look how ridiculous this is. And even then, you're not meant to get everything, but that means that getting the stuff you want is quite difficult and quite, quite unlikely unless you spend the 3,000 credits or whatever it is on the items you specifically want. And if you're playing a lot, that probably isn't that much of a challenge. Saw screenshots of people on Reddit that were like, oh, it'll cost 56,000 credits, will it? Well, I've got 65,000 credits. So, you know, it's not a problem for me. They've got to go click on it all, but, you know, it takes time. If you play a lot, then that's fine. But yeah, that random nature of not being able to get what you want because the only way to get credits is to buy loads of loot boxes or to earn a lot of loot boxes, which might earn you what you want anyway, that annoys people as well. Now, are there solutions for this is the kind of final part of that. There's the Heroes of the Storm system. If you want to read about that, we have a post on the site that kind of breaks the whole thing down. But they have a thing of re-rolling loot boxes. You spend a little bit of one of their in-game currencies, because they have like 3, and it lets you go, well, I don't want what's in that loot box, and re-roll it. So, you know, whenever you get the minimum that can come in a loot box, you go, well, I'll re-roll this, and I'll get something else. I'll get some new stuff. They also, you know, other than that, they have a fairly similar system. They have voice lines, and they have these things called banners for when you do objectives. But, you know, they have lots of low-tier things that are mostly what you get in loot boxes. Then they have skins, and they even have heroes because it's a fully free-to-play game as items. That system works quite well, but whether they can just directly port that, I don't know, you know. What is sure is that there are almost certainly changes coming to the system, because Kaplan made that post, and this is what led into all of these threads being moved into one thread, because Kaplan said, hey, we are listening to your complaints, we want to center the feedback in this thread. And if he's saying that, that will mean that changes will come eventually. It'd be very dangerous for him to go, we're listening to what you have to say, and then 2 months later go, yeah, we decided not to do anything. What it says to me, and again, this is speculation, this isn't something they've said, what it says to me is, we have an idea, we want to see what you guys think of the system as it is at the moment, so we can modify that idea, and we will see changes to this. I don't think it'll be next patch. I would expect it to be like either the patch after that or even the patch after that. So we're talking like the July or the August patch before you'll actually see changes.
But the suggestion is that change is coming, and change can be good.
Yes, it can. Yeah. Exactly what they'll change. I don't know, maybe we can go into that on another episode, different ideas. If you have any, do let us know down below in the comments.
There are an awful lot of comments. We've spoken about a lot of things today, so if you've got any thoughts on loot boxes or on the Lunar base, do drop us a comment, have a chat between yourselves, see, you know, put some theories together. But that's it for this week. If you like the video, there's a like button down here and a subscribe button. Click those, you'll be able to get more from us every week. And until next time, keep having fun in Overwatch.